Chapter 4. Esau and the Broken Body. It was not a church, not in the way most people meant that word. No spire, no steeple, no organ reverberating with thunderous certainties, no creed recited, no liturgy memorized, no pamphlet left in the hands of strangers with trembling prayers they might read it before nightfall. There was only a room, a small one, tucked behind the back wall of an abandoned bakery, still lined with crumbling flour bags and the ghost scent of yeast. Dust hung in the air like suspended time, and in the corner an old stove no longer warmed the space, but no one removed it. It was sacred, like everything else that remained. They came quietly, at different times, and entered through different doors. Sometimes alone, sometimes with someone else, who had begun to ask the right kind of questions, the ones that got you hurt in the better neighborhoods. The questions were always the same, really. Why do they disappear? Where are they taken? Why are they always the poor? And why does everyone else call it sacred? The town had names for the ones who gathered in that room. Heretics, dissidents, infidels. They never used the word church, but they meant it. They meant it with all the wrath and suspicion they could muster, with the same cold reverence they reserved for the sacrifices that undergirded the town's peace. But the ones in the room had their own name for what they were. They called themselves the body. Esau never said much, but he was listened to more than anyone else. Perhaps because he never asked to be followed, perhaps because he never declared himself a leader. He simply lived in such a way that the others began to pattern their breathing after his, their silences after his stillness. His limp made him slow, but it made him real. His body bore witness, not just to pain, but to what it meant to go on hurting and still gather others to safety. Lucretia was the mouth of the body. She was 19 and defiant and beautiful in the way a wound is beautiful when it refuses to close. She said the things that had to be said, even when it cost her, especially when it cost her. Her voice shook sometimes, but it never broke. And when it did, Vera would finish the sentence for her. Vera was quiet, but not timid. Her hands worked constantly, threading, binding, tending. She kept the bodies warm when the nights were cruel. She kept them fed when the food was thin. No one quite knew how she did it, but none of them had starved since she arrived. Peter was young, but already marked. His eyes saw things the others missed. The way a passerby flinched, the way a neighbor paused too long at a window, the way the shadows gathered too thick near the square. He noticed the shifts in wind and warning. And he had started teaching Nicholas how to see it too. And Nicholas, still new to the town, still unsure of the shape of his name and his mouth, had come to understand something he had never known in his old life, wherever that had been. That this thing, this body, was not held together by doctrine or ritual, but by suffering. And not just suffering endured, but suffering shared. Suffering refused. Suffering resisted. They did not preach. They bore witness. They did not sing. They listened to the silences between them and found hymns there. They did not offer sacrifices. They hid the ones who were chosen, at risk of their own lives. They covered children with their coats. They opened doors to those who knocked at midnight. They whispered names into the dark when the town cried out for blood. They lost people, and they buried them without names, but not without memory. Their funerals were not loud, but they were true. The cat, Boba, had begun to follow Vera, slept in her lap when she sat, walked beside her when she moved through the alleyways to deliver food. Nicholas noticed, but said nothing. There was something right about it, something whole, as though the wildness in him and the stillness in Vera had found some common breath. That night, when he looked at Esau across the room, something passed between them, unspoken but known. This is the body. And for the first time, Nicholas understood why it was called that. Not a metaphor, not a symbol, a real thing, with limbs, with breath, with breakable skin, with memory and fear and love and ache. A body, not organized, not institutional, not hierarchical, not pure but alive, and dying and refusing to give up its members to the god of the square. Because the square wanted them, always wanted them. The square was clean, the square was orderly. The square had banners and firelight and rites that made the pain look purposeful. They said the town's peace depended on the blood, that the deity had spoken, that the old ways must be honored, that the weak must be turned over. But the body knew better. It did not seek war. It did not build barricades. It did not seek to overthrow. It simply would not give its children. And that was enough to make it dangerous. That was enough to make it holy. That was enough to make it, perhaps, the only thing left in that town that was still real.